Hotel elevators are supposed to be the safest, most boring places in the world. A metal box, 4 walls, a row of buttons, and a camera watching everything. But in one hotel, one night, the elevator became something else. It became the last place a young woman was ever clearly seen alive. Her final 3 minutes on CCTV have been watched millions of times, frame by frame. They show fear, confusion, and something just out of sight. What they don't show is how she vanished, or how she ended up in a part of the building she should never have reached. This is Dark File Archive. Tonight, we open the file of the woman in the hotel lift. We're not dealing with urban legends or ghost stories. This case begins like thousands of other nights in thousands of other cities. A late check-in, a tired guest, a routine security camera view of a lobby and an elevator. The details you're about to hear are based on real reports and patterns from similar disappearances. Some identifying details have been changed out of respect. What remains is the timeline, the gaps, and the uneasy questions that still divide people to this day. It starts with a young woman arriving at a mid-range hotel in the middle of a busy city. She checks in late at night. The lobby is quiet, lit by soft overhead lights and the pale glow of a television behind the front desk. The security camera mounted high in one corner shows her stepping through the front doors alone, pulling a small suitcase behind her. She wears casual clothes, a backpack slung over one shoulder. She pauses to glance at her phone before approaching the desk. The footage shows a normal interaction. She hands over identification. The clerk types on a keyboard, slides a keycard across the counter, and points toward the elevators. There's nothing in her body language that screams fear yet, just the tired posture of someone at the end of a long day. She turns away, wheels her suitcase across the polished floor, and disappears briefly from the lobby camera's view as she steps into the elevator bay. From here, a different camera takes over. The elevator interior is small and boxy, seen from the upper corner. We watch her step inside, turn toward the control panel, and press the button for her floor. She stands near the middle at first, facing the doors, waiting. For the first few seconds, it looks like any other uneventful elevator ride. Then suddenly, something changes. She leans forward and peeks out into the hallway again, as if she heard something that the camera can't capture. Her head turns sharply to one side, then the other, as though she's checking whether someone is coming. Instead of staying inside, she steps fully out into the corridor. She looks to her left. She looks to her right. There's no one visible, no other guest, no staff member, no one following close behind her. She darts back into the elevator and starts pressing buttons. Not just her floor, multiple buttons in quick succession, like someone trying to make the doors close faster, or trying to send the elevator anywhere but here. The doors don't close. Seconds stretch on. She moves to the corner nearest the control panel and presses herself flat against the wall, as if trying to make herself as small as possible. Her posture is tense, her shoulders are raised, her hands hover near the buttons. The hallway outside stays empty. Over the next 3 minutes, her behavior grows stranger and harder to interpret. She steps in and out of the elevator repeatedly. Sometimes she stands just beyond the threshold, craning her neck to look down the corridor, then jumps back inside again as if she's trying to avoid being seen. Sometimes she moves her arms in quick, jerky motions, almost like she's talking to someone we never see, or like she's trying to signal or ward off something that isn't captured on camera. At one point, she seems to stand half in, half out of the elevator, her body angled toward the hallway, hands moving in a way that some viewers interpret as conversation, others as distress. The doors remain stubbornly open. To someone who watches this footage later, it's almost unbearable. If she's afraid, what is she afraid of? If someone is in that hallway, why don't we see them? If no one is there, what is she reacting to? Investigators and armchair analysts have argued for years over this 3-minute sequence. Some see signs of extreme anxiety, panic, or disorientation. Others think they see the outline of a chase, a desperate attempt to confuse or evade someone following her down the hall. A few go further, reading every gesture as a code, every pause as a hint of something more sinister just beyond the camera's frame. What we know for sure is this: the camera sees only her. No other figure ever enters the elevator. No one else appears in the doorway. Eventually, after this strange pattern of movements, she steps out of the elevator one final time. This time, she doesn't peek back in. She doesn't press more buttons, doesn't retreat to the corner. She walks to the left, down the corridor, and out of the elevator's field of view. The doors, which stayed open so long when she seemed desperate for them to close, finally slide shut. The elevator moves on to another floor. On the footage available to the public and to most analysts, that is the last clear image of her alive. The next morning, housekeeping staff notice something is off. Her room has not been officially checked out. When they knock, there's no answer. They open the door and find her belongings still inside. Clothes, toiletries, personal items laid out in a way that suggests she intended to stay the night and leave later, not disappear. Her bed is unmade, but it's unclear how much time she actually spent in the room. Her suitcase is partially unpacked. There's no obvious sign of a struggle, no smashed glass, no overturned furniture. Front desk records show no outgoing calls for a taxi, no request to check out early. No staff member remembers seeing her leave through the lobby. There's no record of her handing over the keycard or reporting a problem. At first, there's a chance this is just a guest who went out and stayed away longer than expected. But as hours turn into a day, and then more, concern grows. The hotel reviews its security footage. They trace her steps from the lobby to the elevator. They confirm the strange sequence inside: the button presses, the stepping in and out, the hiding in the corner. They watch her walk out and turn left down the hallway. And then nothing. There's no footage of her entering the stairwell. No footage of her waiting at the ice machine, or visiting another room, or walking back toward the elevator. Other cameras in the building show other guests going about their nights. The front doors open and close. Cars arrive and depart from the parking area. But as far as the cameras are concerned, the young woman never leaves the floor where the elevator last saw her. Eventually, she is reported missing. The response moves beyond hotel security. Police and other authorities arrive. They search her room, the corridors, the stairwells, and public areas of the building. They check the roof, storage rooms, maintenance spaces, and any area where a disoriented person might have wandered. Nothing. The case could have ended there as one more unresolved disappearance inside a large building, a file marked by a single haunting video clip. But it doesn't. Later, when a separate issue arises elsewhere in the hotel, often described as a maintenance or water problem, staff access a restricted area of the property. It's a space guests are never meant to go. Reaching it requires either knowledge of the building's inner workings, a key, or access through poorly secured doors that should have been locked. There they find her. Official statements describe it as a tragic discovery. Details about her condition are often left deliberately vague out of respect for her and her family, and we will keep them that way here. What matters for our purposes is where she was found and what that location implies. How did a frightened, possibly confused woman go from the elevator and hallway to a part of the building that should have been nearly impossible to reach on her own? One line of thought focuses on her mental state. Some experts suggest that her behavior in the elevator is consistent with someone experiencing a severe mental health crisis, panic, paranoia, or a break from reality. From this perspective, the frantic button pressing, the stepping in and out, the odd hand movements might not be responses to an actual person in the hallway, but to something only she perceived. In that scenario, she might have wandered in search of a hidden exit, a place to hide, or some imagined safety. If doors were left unsecured or alarms malfunctioned, she could have slipped into maintenance areas unnoticed. A tragic accident might then have taken place far from the eyes of cameras and staff. Another line of thought looks outward, not inward. Why did the elevator doors stay open for so long when she seemed desperate for them to close? Why did certain cameras show her, while others, placed in what should have been key positions, either failed or never recorded useful footage? People who favor this angle see systemic failures. Improperly maintained doors. Cameras that weren't working or weren't positioned correctly. Access points to dangerous parts of the building that were left unsecured. To them, her death becomes less an isolated tragedy and more an indictment of the hotel's safety protocols. If certain doors had been locked, if certain alarms had sounded, if certain cameras had covered the blind spots, the story might have ended differently. And then there are those who suspect that someone else was involved, someone the cameras never show. In this view, the woman's behavior in the elevator reflects direct fear of another person just out of frame. A guest or staff member following at a distance. Someone who knew the layout of the building and where its vulnerabilities lay. This theory suggests that the reason we never see another person on camera is not because no one was there, but because the angles were incomplete, or the footage was somehow incomplete by the time it reached the public. It's important to be clear. There is no widely accepted, publicly available proof of deliberate foul play. No recorded confrontation. No clear figure leading her away. No official finding that conclusively identifies another person as responsible. But the combination of her visible fear, the location where she was discovered, and the gaps in surveillance have kept that possibility alive in many people's minds. In the end, official accounts often lean toward a conclusion of accidental death, shaped by underlying mental health factors and compounded by building and security failures. For many, that explanation feels both possible and deeply unsatisfying. The footage we have shows us a young woman who should have been safe. Alone in an elevator. Inside a hotel. Under the watch of cameras, staff, and locked doors. Instead, we see fear and confusion. We see a system that should have protected her instead offering openings, blind spots, and quiet places where a person can disappear. This case exposes a tension we don't always like to think about. We live in a world covered in lenses, hotel corridors, elevators, lobbies, parking garages, and streets. We're told that this constant observation makes us safer, that if something happens, the cameras will tell the truth. But what happens when the truth stops at the edge of the frame? When the last recording of you alive is a distorted, grainy image of you pressing buttons in an elevator that won't close? Was this the story of a mind in crisis, undone by a moment of disorientation in a building full of hidden dangers? Was it the result of negligence, a maze of unlocked doors and poorly maintained systems that turned a hotel into a trap? Or is there a piece of this story missing, held in angles we never saw, in footage we'll never have, in decisions we'll never hear about? The woman in the hotel lift can't answer those questions now. All we're left with is 3 minutes of video, a restricted area that was never meant for guests, and a file that still feels open, no matter what the paperwork says. Which part of this story unsettles you the most? Her behavior in the elevator, the restricted place where she was found, or the possibility that someone else walked just outside the edge of the camera's eye? Let me know your thoughts, and any theories you think the official narrative might have missed. This is Dark File Archive. If you want more real stories that feel impossible, consider subscribing, and tell me which kind of case you want open next.